Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Maybe you're good-looking, it's always looking for and finding the good. We found good in abundance. Your cup runneth over with good. Get ready, buckle up. You have tuned in consciously and conscientiously to Eye on Las Vegas with your humble host, Barry Shore, the ambassador of joy. Notice I didn't say the ambassador of joy, the ambassador of joy, and you are so fortunate today because you've tuned in and you're going to meet one of the most remarkably positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant people on the planet. And it's going to help you in your life. You'll be healthier, wealthier, and happier because of it. I just want to make mention, we talk about this term, there's this city called Las Vegas, this place that's pulsating with excitement. You can go anywhere in the world and say these two words, Las Vegas, and people's eyes open up and they listen and say, wow, I know that. Just want to give you an idea of how interesting Las Vegas is. If you take the entire population of New York City and all its environs, take the entire population of Chicago and everything around it, take the entire population of Los Angeles and all of its suburbs, add it all together, it doesn't equal the number of people that come to, through, and from Las Vegas in a given year. 41 million people come to, through, and for Las Vegas. Why? Because it's a place of energy. It's a place of things happening. People can feel expressive here. And I can't think of anybody that is more expressive about laughter, about hope, about miracles, and about life than the one and only indomitable and wonderful Dr. Bernie Siegel. Bernie, please say hello to 501,818 people around the world.
Hello.
If I didn't expect...
Bonjour.
Okay, I'm going to just give a little brief introduction, even though Dr. Bernie Siegel, you have to look him up. Dr. Bernie Siegel, Siegel, just as an inside baseball stuff. Sometimes he goes by Bugsy, but that's just because he likes to be fun. And again, Las Vegas, Bugsy, okay, inside baseball, you can look it up. He is the essence of what healing is truly all about. You see, Dr. Bernie Siegel has all the credentials that any doctor needs. What he has, more importantly, is the results that the doctors really need. You see, if you're a doctor and you can't heal, it doesn't matter in life.
I've got to interrupt you a minute.
Yes, please.
I have what most doctors don't have. When you say to a doctor, draw yourself working as a doctor, guess what's not in the picture?
You.
No, a patient.
Oh my gosh, the patient. Can you imagine? You actually think about the patient.
They show themselves and they don't show a patient. They're sitting behind a desk with diplomas and instruments and all kinds of things. It blew my mind. But that's the problem with medical care today. We're taught to treat a disease, not a person. And what I learned from my work, as a doctor, caring about people, and started support groups, I learned that people had something to teach me. Why didn't you die when you were supposed to? And I heard a story. See, they didn't have a spontaneous remission. They had self-induced healing.
Wait a minute. I want to just put a pause. I want everybody to hear again what he said. Self-induced healing.
Yeah, let me give you a quote because I was impressed from the book Cancer Ward by Solzhenitsyn. In it, one guy comes up on the ward and says, look, I found this book. It says here, there are cases of self-induced healing, not recovery through treatment, but actual healing. See? And it was as though a rainbow-colored butterfly had flooded out of the great open book, and they all held up their foreheads and cheeks for its healing touch as it flew past. Now, when I read that, Solzhenitsyn knows what I'm talking about. Why does he pick a rainbow-colored butterfly? What happens when your life is in order? You're a rainbow. Everything's where it belongs. Why a butterfly? You busted out of your cocoon. You spread your wings. I mean, in that sentence, he tells everybody, you want to live a long, healthy life? Bust out and be that person. And I began to see that in my office and everywhere else. People, excuse me for laughing, but when you call up to ask a family, why didn't you invite me to the funeral? I told you I wanted to come. I loved, him. He answered the phone. And I said, I wasn't invited to the funeral. And he said, yeah, it was so beautiful. I moved here to die, but it's so beautiful. I forgot to die. Number of stories from people like that.
Okay, I want to put you on pause for a moment because we are blessed to have a worldwide audience, and most of them are under the age of 30. So oftentimes people have a generation gap. And I'm going to urge everybody, everything you want to know about, well, not everything, but when you want to learn a lot about Dr. Bernie Siegel are in the show notes. I will give you some data points, though, because it's really important. What you're hearing now will literally extend your life, not just in terms of days and years, and also in the ability to live life to the full. Dr. Bernie Siegel, this particular moment when we're talking together, if you can see it, you're better than even just listening. So I urge you to do that. He's 92 chronologically. He's about 63 metabolically because he doesn't let anything stand in his way. He's about 29 in mental acuity, as you can hear from our discussion today. And his SOW is 8. So people scratch their heads and say, what's an SOW, Barry? Sense of wonder. Bernie Siegel never loses his sense of wonder. And what he just shared with us, this insight from Solzhenitsyn, if you don't know who that is, go look it up also, about the ability to talk about rainbows and butterflies. I'm going to just mention a number of books, Bernie, only because it sets the stage for some more dialogue. So let me just tell people, these are some of the titles of the books that Dr. Bernie Siegel has written and published. Yes, Bernie.
Pause one moment. The only grade I got in 4 years of college was a C. And I've had bestseller books, and I am an artist. That's part of why I see the world differently. I mean that literally.
Yes.
I paint portraits. They're all around our house. And so I knew why I couldn't write, because it was like my brain didn't work that way. But I learned from the people I was caring for, and then became a storyteller, not a writer, but I told stories. So in a sense, it was never fiction. Oh, yes. And then I was called the controversial Dr. Bernie Siegel.
Right. This is something that's so important.
Private stories. People said, oh, come on, I can't believe that. What? The nurses at the hospital always said to me, why do all these people who aren't your patients want to talk to you? Because they could talk to me, and I didn't say that's crazy. I mean, one more story. Woman who's written a book called The Change of Heart, Claire Sylvia. She paged me. I went to her room. What is it? I've had a heart-lung transplant. And the man whose heart and lungs are transplanted into me was talking to me last night. He told me what he wanted for breakfast today. And I told this to people, and they all said, oh, you're crazy. We can't accept that. We can't believe you. And they won't do anything for me to help me understand. I said, look, when he comes back tonight, say, what's your family's phone number so I can check with them about you? Well, she did it. We called them. They said, oh, yes, his heart and lungs are in her. He died in a motorcycle accident. And she said, oh, last week I took the first ride on a motorcycle ever in my life. It was just incredible. And, when you hear those things, you can't deny them. And so she ended up writing a book about it. And, people want to tell her she's crazy, fine. But I know she's not.
So I want to tell the world that Dr. Bernie Siegel is legendary, not because of his age. He's legendary because the medical establishment poo-pooed him, disregarded him. did not understand what he was putting forth, even though he was incontrovertible in terms of results. Let me tell you some of the titles of some of his books. And we're talking about not just he wrote a book. These books were not only selling by the tens of thousands, they were causing people to rethink their processes and bring about self-induced healing. Listen to some of these titles.
Let
Love.
me just say this: Love, Medicine, and Miracles became a New York Times #1 bestseller.
Love,
And let me
medicine,
say
and
that
miracle.
in terms of not writing, what I did is like what I'm doing with you. I
Right.
sat with the recorder and talked for hours and hours and hours, and then I had a writer type it up, so he put it together in readable form. But it amazed everybody.
So here's another
Okay,
wonderful book.
my sense of humor, though, I got to share this because
Yes.
people need a sense of humor to survive. I wrote to my college where the only C I got in 4 years was in creative writing. And I said, can you raise me to a B now? It'll look better on my records because I had a bestseller. And they thought I wanted them to laugh. Hey, and they sent me this several-page serious letter about how they're not allowed to alter grades after you leave school. And I felt sorry for them that they couldn't laugh.
Right. By the way, you hear that everybody's listening. You should be leaning in. I urge you, don't take any notes. Just experience Bernie to the full. The reason we record this is you can go back and listen again, pause it, take notes. One of his other great books, and this is a word I'm going to give you in a moment, that helps guide me to this very day. This book is called Guided Healing Meditations. Let's just unpack this. Guided healing, hear the word healing because you're a doctor, meditations. Now, most doctors will tell you healing and meditations don't go together. I want to give you the word that Bernie Siegel taught me years ago that I use almost daily. And the word is called guidance. It's spelled Guidance. So those people who can unpack things can look at it right away and look at it the Bernie way. Bernie looks at guidance and he says, that stands for God, you and I dance. That's what guidance is. When you're dancing with God, guess what happens? You can now channel the healing energy of the creator of the universe, and therefore you become self-induced healer. You're your own best guide. Isn't that right, Bernie?
Yes. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who became a friend years ago, she used to say to me, Bernie, with her Swiss accent, there are no coincidences. And that was something I began to think about too. Because the quote is, our future is unconsciously prepared long in advance and therefore can be guessed by clairvoyance. So when you go to the fortune teller, they're reading you, if you know what I mean. And that's part of what changed me, meeting all these people who I initially thought were crazy, but are not, that we have to open our minds and let these things happen. And it comes more through images, dreams and drawings than it does through words when you're thinking.
I love this because this is how people do think. We think in images. Now, I will tell everybody, we have sponsors that love our show. We wouldn't have them on. We didn't think they're worthy of your time and attention. So we're going to do a brief 43-second interlude commercial. We'll be right back with more. Dr. Bernie Siegel, don't go away because he's so precious and you need him. I need him. The world needs him. Be right back.
What if you could shop at your favorite local stores, swipe your current credit card and get extra cashback rewards? And what if you could also have donations sent to your favorite cause at no extra cost to you? What if this amazing program was absolutely free and very simple to set up? Well, What If is here. Welcome to Einstein Cares, where your everyday shopping gives you and your favorite cause extra money. It's fast, it's easy, and effortless.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved immortal beings, and good-looking people. You'll be good-looking, so always looking for and finding the good. Our cup runneth over with good. And his name is Dr. Bernie Siegel, and he is a healer for the world because he enables you to be your best and only healer. You are a rainbow butterfly. If you listen to the show again, listen down the beginning. I'm going to tell you a few other.
Well, let me explain to people so they don't feel guilty. And I feel sorry for Donald Trump in terms of how he acts, behaves. And if you said, where did it come from? Because I had read about his history before he ran for president. It's your parenting. They wanted, a millionaire, a president as a child. And when you read about it, the people who study parenting and problem children and so forth, what they learned is a study done at Harvard. The students were asked, did your parents love you while they were at Harvard? If they said yes, only 25% had suffered a major illness by middle age. If they said no, 75% had suffered a major illness by middle age. And that's the part I was trying to share with people. I didn't know it. My parents drove me crazy loving me. I mean, they always had, if I had a lovely day, it was meant to be. God, if I had a horrible day and came home from school, everything went wrong. God is redirecting you. Something good will come of this. I would look at my mother and say, are you paying attention to me? But I learned that, because this really happened. I pulled up next to a car that had broken down. It was sitting in the middle of the highway. I said, can I help you? Can I call somebody for you? And the guy said, yeah, my car broke down. I didn't have a phone. I didn't know what to do. So I'm about to call when another car pulls up and says, can I help you guys? And we said what had happened. So what does he do? He says, oh, I know where there's a garage. I can help you, blah, blah, blah. And he takes the guy, in his car and he drives off with him to get him help. And you think, how does that happen? But that was the kind of thing my folks are always saying. God is redirecting you. Something good will come. Somebody's going to show up and pick you up and help you out. And I learned that I didn't know the future. So there were times when everything went wrong and it turned out to be a good thing. Who I ended up meeting. Yeah, well, even the woman I married, I never asked her out. I was talking to her. We were both working at a swimming pool. And a camp. But we were at the swimming pool watching the kids swimming so nobody get drowned. And I said, it's really nice that they have a heater in this pool so you can be comfortable no matter what the day is like. And you could even swim at night here. And she said, are you asking me for a date? Which I wasn't, because she was so attractive, I didn't even bother to think of it. And I said, oh, yes, of course. She said, all right. So I went to pick her up that night. And that led to our getting married because she wasn't ready. And we ended up sitting and talking for hours at some club and ended up getting married. Now, if I hadn't said there was a heater in the pool, I never would have married her.
Well, this brings to mind something that we said at the very beginning. What's the definition of a good-looking person? Always looking for and finding the good, like your mother. Or
Right.
when you mention something good, okay, there's a heater in the pool. Isn't that wonderful? In other words, you were looking for something good. When you do that, you create what we call a tsunami of goodness. It has to happen. So I'm going to give you some other titles.
That third message, my father's message, it's how do I know who to help if I'm supposed to help the world? He said, look out at people. Everybody has needs. If you see something people need, go and help them. So no matter what questions I asked them, they always had simple answers. And there were a lot of times, I have to tell you, I was afraid people would hear me talking. And you'd say, why? Because I was always talking to God. I would go into my bedroom and say, God, my parents are no help. They always have these smart answers. You do this, you do that. do what makes you happy. I mean, they never would give me advice. It was always something simple, and that frustrated the hell out of me. So, God, you got to help me get better parents. Father said to me one day with Bernie, look at the world. People have needs. Look at them, see what they need, and then go help them. Stop making it this difficult problem. And how do I know what to do? Yeah. And that's why, forgive me if I don't stop talking, but it's my life comes flowing back. I decided to start support groups for cancer patients in our office, to have them come in and just try to help them. And we sent out letters to hundreds of people. And I said to the secretary in the office, what did you do? How am I going to deal with this? If 100 people show up in our office, where am I going to put them to have a group? Well, that day woke me up. It was between 8 and 10 women showed up that day. I couldn't believe it. You're writing to hundreds of people about living a longer, healthier life. They all had cancer, and only 8 or 10. And I said to my wife, I can't believe this. My wife is a smart lady. She said, honey, they are exceptional women. So that's why we named our group Exceptional Cancer Patients, ECAP, because I took that word exceptional. But the way my wife said that to me, it was like her insights into women, and they were exceptional women. And yeah, they taught me about survival behavior. So then I started writing books, talking to people, showing them that there is a path. Give your body a live message.
Let's unpack this. Let me listen to this again, what Bernie just said. Give your body a live package. In other words, when you direct your body and you use your mind to do that, and you use your words and use your deeds, when you're thinking, speaking, and acting good, and giving your body a live message, not the opposite, a live message, the result is it's a law of the universe, you will live. Let me tell you some other titles that Bernie has authored. Humor and Healing. This is why Bernie, by the way, was controversial to the entire medical establishment. It wasn't just, oh yeah, that's Bernie Siegel. No, he was almost, for want of a better term, a threat, because he upended what doctors who had the Deus complex thought about healing. They weren't listening. He wrote a book called Healing, Laughter, and Miracles. He wrote a book called Life, Hope, and Healing. Do you hear all these titles are synonymous?
Love, Medicine, and Miracles.
Life, Medicine, and Miracles.
Love, Medicine, and Miracles.
Okay, so listen
to.
And
let me make it clear to people. They'll understand what you're saying better in a minute. Oprah Winfrey called me to come on her show. That book was a #1 New York Times bestseller, Love, Medicine, and Miracles. So I get on Oprah's show, and I come in ready to sit up on the stage, with the microphone. And she says, no, you sit in the audience. I said, I'm sitting in the audience? Yes. Who does she have on the stage? 8 doctors who were there to criticize me and tell everybody I was a nutcase, And oh boy, what a wonderful show.
And by the way,
for an hour. You see, let me say, Phil Donahue invited me. I came in and went to sit in the audience. He said, no, he said, wait a minute, Bernie, I want the 3 cancer patients you brought with you, because he asked me to sit on the stage. I want them to talk. You sit in the front row of the audience, to reflect upon what they're saying. And I thought, he knows what I'm talking about. He put 3 women on the stage, and they could teach the audience because they'd had the cancer. Yeah.
And that's the genius. I'm going to embarrass you, and it needs to be done. That's the genius of Bernie Siegel. The genius is the simplicity, as he talked about his parents. His parents, he said, were just simple. They weren't simple people. They gave him simple pieces of wisdom. Right. By the way, they gave you wisdom. You wanted advice. They gave you something more. It took you years to understand that what they were doing is imparting wisdom and then better than advice. However, that took time.
Let me add, because all the crazy things I did as a kid, I would go to my bedroom, shut the door, and say, God, you got to help me. My parents are no help. They all have these simple answers. God is redirecting you every time something went wrong. I didn't get any help. I'm told God is redirecting me. So I talked to God all the time.
And then
I
you
shut
realized
the door because I didn't want to be sent to a psychiatrist. So when people came, they said, "Who are you talking to?" And I said, "God." What?
And that's why the medical establishment couldn't bear him, because he was successful, because he did something that most doctors find truly difficult to do. Now, it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
To be able to understand that the person in front of you actually knows as much about their own situation as you, the Harvard or Cornell or even regular medical school trained being. The ability for the person to do self-induced healing is the greatest gift that God has ever given to the world. And I think one of the greatest gifts that God has given to the world is Dr. Bernie Siegel. And I am just truly so humbled and honored that you made the time to come and be with us today, Bernie.
I got to give you one more story.
Please.
You just reminded me of. Well, 2 points. One, I shaved my head years ago. The portrait painting I did of myself shows me in the operating room, cap, mask, gown. And then I read again some of what Jung wrote. And it said the reason monks shave their head is a symbol of uncovering their spirituality. When I read that, I knew that was me, because I had literally walked into the barber one day and said, "You have to shave my head." And he said, "Your kids will kill me if I do that. You're already crazy and embarrassing them." But I told him I wasn't going to go home that day. It was Friday. And that was a lie. So he shaved my head and then I went home.
So let me tell Bernie.
You see, the symbolism of what we are like and what we're doing, you have to understand what's going on inside of you. And, I learned about myself. I drew pictures, analyzed them. Every color meant something. Even when people were going to die, they would use purple, spiritual color. And there were things there that I could anticipate what was going to happen, help them, their families, and so forth. And, when you began to show these drawings at workshops and lectures, people couldn't deny them. So the shift began. And now when I have an introduction, they don't introduce me as controversial anymore. I may be strange, but
strange is good.
There's so much more spiritual stuff going on now on the internet and everywhere else, where you can have near-death experiences. And I've had those things happen to me. I mean, when I was 3 years old, I almost choked to death on a toy. And that's when I first met my angel. I mean, I didn't know who he was. And the reason I would put the toy in my mouth, this was interesting. Our house was being renovated and the carpenters put nails in their mouth. You didn't have all the tools in those days. So the guys would pull it out, go bang, bang. So I'm out playing in the yard. I put.
And you're mimicking them, right?
Yeah, and I'm choking to death. And he did a Heimlich maneuver on me before I knew what the hell they were. And I knew how old I was. I was about 3.5, because I could see my pregnant mother and grandmother coming over to me. And my mother was pregnant. And I know my sister was 3.5 years, younger than I was. So it all fit together. And when I said to my angel, whose name is George, I said, "Why did you save me?" He said, "Because you weren't supposed to die when you were 3 years old." And he's been with me for 90 years.
I love it. So this
and
idea
seen by other people. You know what I said to you before we went on the air about your prayer cap, yarmulke.
Right.
He had that on. And, I thought I am Jewish, but I thought, why does he dress strangely? But he was wearing all these religious garments, every day because he's a rabbi.
Well, we're glad that he saved you and continues to visit you, and that you
Yes.
continue to share with us. And I love this. The acronym for the word us is uncovered spirituality.
Mm.
That's us. Bernie Siegel, Dr. Bernie Siegel, I'm loath to say these words. However, our time is coming to a close, and I'm sorry to say it. I have 3 quick questions for you, dear sir. Are you ready?
Yes.
Number 1 question, will you come back again?
Yes.
Number 2, Bernie Siegel, Dr. Bernie Siegel, amazing Bernie Siegel. You have 80 seconds only to answer this. 80 seconds, that's it. What is your most fervent desire?
My most what?
Your
Fervent?
most fervent desire.
Helping others and being happy.
Helping others and being happy. He brings hope to the world. Hope stands for helping others progress every day. Thank you.
Right.
And number 3 question, may I give you a hug in front of 503,922 people around the world?
Yes.
Let me tell you what HUG stands for. Heartfelt, unlimited giving. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. And a blessing from Barry and Dr. Bernie Siegel. Go forth, live exuberantly, spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go
And
mad.
tell people if they need a new father, I'll be their father and love them.
Thank you. Don't go away.